Industrial revolution followed by the advance in information technology during the last century has radically changed people's lifestyle. Although this development has helped the human rights mismanagement has led to new problems of contamination and pollution. The technical progress acquired during the last century has posed a new challenge in the management of waste. Certain components of electronics products contain material that render them hazardous depending on their condition and density. For instance, California law currently views non-functioning CTR or called cathode ray tubes from television and monitors as hazardous. Electronic scrap components such as CPUs contain potentially harmful components such as lead, cadmium, beryllium, or brominate flame retardants. Recycling and disposal of e-waste may involve significant risks to health of workers and communities in developed countries, and great care must be taken to avoid unsafe exposure in recycling operation and leaking of material such as heavy metals from landfills and incinerators ashes.
It started when Industrial Revolution becoming far more advanced and it changed people's lifestyle. Even though these developments give benefits to people, but when it comes to mismanagement to deal with the e-waste, it will cause certain problem in terms of contamination and pollution. In this case, three things that are responsible for e-waste problem, which is development, technology, and citizen. When it comes to development, it is estimated that there are over 1 billion personal computers in the world. In the United States alone, there are over 300 million obsolete computers. Not only developed countries, the developing countries too have faced a steep rise in sales or more wastage in this industry. It is believed that sales of computers and internet usage have gone up by 400% in developing countries as well. Second, technology results in the coming of newer products and appliances, increasing in researching newest technology in many companies such as Apple, Huawei, Samsung, and much more to gain profit causes many products being released. This will cause overproduced electronic product that will cause the product become cheaper. So, consumer can buy it because it is affordable and their old electronic device become unused. High-tech electronic device contribute mass amount of hazardous components. For example, complex electronic alone, there is up to 16 elements inside it. This will lead to e-waste. Last one is people mentality to follow the technology trend. For example, the launch of new iPhone, Samsung, and much more can lead people to buy the latest phone even though their older phone are still usable. The unused electronic device becoming waste and it will called e-waste.
There is estimated 50 million tons of e-waste are produced each year. The USA discards 30 billion computers each year and 100 million phones are disposed in Europe each year. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that only 15 to 20% of e-waste is recycled. The rest of these electronics go directly into landfills and incinerators. The amounts of e-waste being produced, including mobile phones and computers, could rise by as much as 500% over the next decade in some countries such as India. The United States is the world leader in producing electronic waste, tossing away about 3 million tons each year. China already produced about 2.3 million tons in 2010 domestically, second only to the United States. And despite having banned e-waste imports, China remains a major e-waste dumping ground for developed countries.
Most research involving informal e-waste recycling has been done in Guiyu, but there are a handful of studies that describe exposure levels in e-waste workers, the community, and the environment. The locals and migrant workers in Delhi, a northern union territory of India, scavenge discarded computer equipment and extract base metals using toxic, unsafe methods. The developing countries utilize methods that are more harmful and more wasteful. An expedient and prevalent method is simply to toss equipment onto an open fire in order to melt plastics and to burn away non-valuable metals. This releases carcinogens and neurotoxins into the air, contributing to an acrid, lingering smoke. These noxious fumes include dioxins and furans. Bonfire refuse can be disposed of quickly into drainage ditches or waterways feeding the ocean or local water supplies. They also found a greater frequency of complaints of cough, chest pain, and vertigo from those exposed to emissions from the e-waste recycling processes.
The process of dismantling and disposing of electronic waste in developing countries led to a number of environmental impacts. The example of e-waste component is cathode ray tubes that are used in TVs, computer monitors, ATM, video cameras, and much more. The process used to dismantling and disposing this component is by breaking and removal of yolk, then dumping it. The potential environment hazard is the lead, barium, and other heavy metal leaching into the groundwater and release of toxic phosphorus. Next e-waste component is printed circuit board or PCB. Process used is by desoldering and removal of computer chips, and then open burning and acid baths to remove metals after chips are removed. The potential environment hazard is air emissions and discharge into rivers of glass dust, tin, lead, brominate dioxin, beryllium, cadmium, and mercury. Next e-waste component is chip and other gold-plated component. The process used is chemical stripping using nitric and hydrochloric acid and burning of chips. Potential environment hazard is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, heavy metals, brominate, flames, retardants discharged directly into the rivers, acidifying fish and flora. Next e-waste component is plastic from printers, keyboards, and monitors. Process used to dismantling this component is by shredding and low temperature metering to be reused. Potential environment hazard is emission of brominate, dioxin, heavy metals, and hydrocarbons. The last e-waste component is computer wires. Process used to dismantling and replacing this component is by open burning and stripping to remove copper. Potential environment hazard is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon released into the air, water, and soil.
Hazardous substances from e-waste can also cause serious illness, even bad death. Primitive recycling techniques, such as burning cables for retaining the inherent copper, expose both adult and child workers as well as their families to a range of hazardous substances. E-waste connected health risks may result from direct contact with harmful materials such as lead, cadmium, chromium, brominated flame retardants, or polychlorinated biphenyls (PCBs), from inhalation of toxic fumes as well as from accumulation of chemicals in soil, water, and food. Children are especially vulnerable to the health risks that may result from e-waste exposure, and therefore they need more specific protection. Furthermore, their body's functional systems, such as the central nervous, immune, reproductive, and digestive system, are still developing, and exposure to toxic substances by hampering further development may cause irreversible damage. Another effect when vulnerable to e-waste is fetal loss, prematurity, low birth weight, congenital malformations, abnormal thyroid function, neurobehavioral disturbances, and genotoxicity. It is estimated that 75% of electronic items are stored due to uncertainty of how to manage it. These electronic junks lie unattended in houses, offices, warehouses, and normally mixed with household waste, which are finally disposed of at landfills. This necessitates implementable management measures. Government, industries, and the public are also responsible to manage e-waste. First, responsibilities of the government. Government must encourage research into the development and standard of hazardous waste management, environmental monitoring, and the regulation of hazardous waste disposal. Governments should enforce strict regulations against dumping e-waste in the country by outsiders. Where the laws are flouted, stringent penalties must be imposed. In particular, custodial sentences should be preferred to peltry fines, which these outsiders or foreign nationals can pay. Uncontrolled dumping is an unsatisfactory method for disposal of hazardous waste and should be phased out. Governments should set up regulatory agencies in each district, which are vested with the responsibilities of coordinating and consolidating the regulatory functions of the various government authorities regarding hazardous substances. Governments should encourage and support NGOs and other organizations to involve actively in solving the nation's e-waste problems.
Second, responsibility of industries. All personnel involved in handling e-waste in industry, including those at the policy, management, control, and operational levels, should be properly qualified and trained. Companies can adopt their own policies while handling e-waste. Manufacturers, distributors, and retailers should undertake the responsibility of recycling disposal of their own products. Manufacturers of computer monitors, television sets, and other electronic devices containing hazardous material must be responsible for educating consumers and the general public regarding the potential threats to public health and the environment posed by their product. At minimum, all computer monitors, television sets, and other electronic devices containing hazardous material must be clearly labeled to identify environmental hazards and proper materials management. The last one is responsible of the citizen. We must educate ourselves because most electronic gadgets have toxic materials in them. So it is extremely important to dispose them the right way. We must educate ourselves, our kids, and our friends. So this toxin should push us to be more mindful of e-waste. The next one is upgrading device. Just because a device is older doesn't mean it's worthless. Ask your information technology department for cost-benefit analysis for repairing or upgrading old gear. Some IT equipment can gain new capabilities with a firmware upgrade, which means replacing the lowest level of software with a new version. Then, store data online. Why use a memory stick on device when you can now easily store significant amounts of data on the internet? There are many different types of cloud storage available online, such as Dropbox, Google Drive, and iDrive. E-waste should never be disposed with garbage and other household waste. These should be segregated at the site and sold or donated to various organizations. The last one is recycle via retailer. Major retailers and brands have installed online and off-site recycling options. They recycle computers, mobile phones, and TVs. In fact, some will allow you to trade your obsolete equipment for gift cards. Before purchasing electronics, ask the store if they have a buyback program. Most large retailers give that option to customers.
In view of high generation of e-waste, highly limited awareness of dangers associated with its improper disposal, and over 90% being recycled by unorganized sector, the environment is getting polluted very badly. Hence, it is time for us to realize our mistakes and take corrective measures to prevent irreparable damage to the environment. It is important that we create a national framework for the environmentally sound management of e-waste, including wide public awareness and education. We should also conduct a detailed inventories of e-waste and initiate pilot schemes on collection and sorting of e-waste, including take-back schemes for repair, refurbishment and recycling. At last, we conclude that today everyone has to realize the importance of e-waste processing, as mankind is responsible for the invention and for the disposal of electronic waste. Thus, the responsibility for processing the e-waste also depends on the mankind.